Hey guys, I'm going to quote a guy named Robert L. Clark. He said, "Look beyond appearances. Things are not always as they seem." Look beyond appearances. Things are not always as they seem. What a tremendous encouragement for us to not just base everything on our five physical senses. It underscores the point Paul the Apostle made in 2 Corinthians, the 5th chapter, in the 7th verse, where he says, "Walk by faith and not by sight." A few years ago, as a young man, I was reading the book of Hebrews, and I studied chapter 11. And it goes from Adam's son, Abel, and moves forward to Enoch and Noah and Abraham and Sarah, and goes all the way through the history of the Jewish people: Moses, Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, the prophets. And I went back and I did the cross references into the Old Testament, and I looked at each case, because Hebrews chapter 11 has been called the Hall of Fame of Faith. We had some members in our church, a couple of them got inducted into the Hall of Fame. In their case, it was with their particular sport. And I attended one of those inductions, and there were, bronze cast busts of the predecessors of that earned that honor. And this is a litany of people that are in the grandstands of heaven. In fact, Hebrews, after it says in Hebrews 11 about these itemizing their historical moments, it says, "Therefore, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us." That's a reference, historians believe, to the amphitheaters that had the sloped seating and then the high seats way up in the top. And the imagery is that those who have gone before us have gone out into the afterlife, and they're cheering us on in the grandstands of heaven. And we are to, it says, rid ourselves of every obstacle, every weight, every encumbrance, every blockage, every hindrance, and the sin which so easily entangles us. The Puritans talked about the easily besetting sins, and they in their view, they're different for each one of us. Some things don't stumble you like they stumble me, or vice versa. So we got to be cognizant of that and aware of it, and factor that in, and in our desire to conform to the image of Jesus and not be conformed to this world, and present our bodies a living sacrifice, crucify our flesh. So our flesh has goofy tendencies. One preacher said, "Our flesh is stupid." I think it's pretty well put. But we could walk in the Spirit, and the good news is 1 Thessalonians 5:23, that God is so good, he will sanctify you and set you apart and help you out entirely, and that your whole spirit and soul and body would be preserved without blame to the coming of the Lord. Man, that is good news. He's able to keep you from falling and present you faultless before his presence with exceeding joy. Did you hear that? Faithful is he who calls you, he'll also bring it to pass. So in our calling and responsibility to do this, we have help. We have a helper. And I think the biggest help is the idea of walking by faith and not by sight. And going to Hebrews 11, the title of this devotional today is Betting Your Life on Unseen Realities. And that comes from chapter 11, verse 1. "Now faith is the certainty of things hoped for, a proof of things not seen." It's a certainty and an assurance, a confidence. Faith, the life of faith, when you really trust and believe in God, hey, it's rock solid. There is a God, and he He cares for us. Verse 6 says, without faith, it is impossible to please him. So conversely, then, with faith, there's possibility to please God. Faith pleases God. And you want that because that's what we're made for. We're made not just for our sort of survival or our creature comforts or whatever. We're made by God, for his purposes. That's the joy of life, is getting connected with that and tracking with that and going with him and serving him and loving him. I'm not talking about religious formalism or just some sort of guilt-driven obeisance. I'm talking about liberation, freedom, abundant life, an invitation into a restoration of what Adam and Eve had failed so in such a great blunder of rebellion and disobedience. And the outcomes are devastating. That's where all the trouble comes from. It's not God's fault. It's really not even the devil's fault. I mean, he tempted, but Adam and Eve, it's our responsibility. We as humans are culpable and therefore have to take some responsibility. However, the good news is Jesus was sent not to judge or condemn the world. John chapter 3, verse 15, 16, and 17. We were already condemned because of unbelief. He came to eradicate the sin condition and set captives free. He didn't come to condemn us. A lot of people think that. It's where this hellfire emphasis comes. Well, we certainly have a hell to avoid. Hell is real, and Jesus spoke of it. And there's no question it is a real thing. Being separated from God for eternity is terrible. You want Jesus. You want to know him. If you're an atheist, press past your unbelief and give Jesus a shot. If you're an agnostic and you don't know, I'm telling you, he's real. And if you're a believer and you've been struggling, listen. Clarence Jordan translated this verse in the Cotton Patch Gospels. Faith turns dreams into deeds. It bets its life on the unseen realities. We are all in with our trust in God. We're believing, you know. I have 4 children, 2 girls, 2 boys. Now I have grandkids, and I'm watching my children and their mates endeavoring to raise their kids in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, as did their parents and as did I. So I'm trusting God for great outcomes. You know, I see them with a destiny, you know, and a purpose. And with the eye of faith, we bet our lives on unseen realities. And so today I pray this fuels your faith and strengthens you a little bit and helps you to think about these things and leaning into it a little bit more. Stand on God's promises. Resist the devil. He will flee from you. Crucify your flesh. Keep it on the altar. Get your mind renewed and have a great day. God bless you.